You're listening to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. It would greatly benefit the show. Hello and welcome to Movie Bitters with the Farx brothers. I'm Kirk.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're joined by Lisa Evanson. She is a comedian and actor. Today...
Evanson.
Evanson?
Evanson.
Lisa Evanson.
See, now I got one wrong and you got one wrong.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Sorry, Mai, whoever you are.
Yeah,
listening
thanks.
to this.
We are going to be debating the Grand Budapest Hotel, so I almost forgot the title. This is the non-spoiler segment.
Lisa, what made you pick the Grand Budapest Hotel?
Because for me, it evokes such a childlike joy and fond memories with my dad and my brothers in the theater of the film that I have just down to my core enjoyed the most experiencing.
You saw this in the movie theater with your family?
Yes.
Okay, and you would have been in your late teens when this came out? Sorry, not trying to age you, but
what was this? That would have been, 12 years ago?
Yeah, 2013 is when this came out. March of 2013 specifically. March or April is when you probably saw it.
So I would have been 21?
I guess.
Yeah, I'm 33.
I knew you were in your early 30s.
Yes.
I'm in my late 30s.
Hell yeah.
Man,
See, I would have guessed
34.
younger.
Thank you. I drink and do other things.
Wow, is that the first time you admitted it on this podcast? Because you don't usually admit that you drink.
Well, I would never take beers into the movie theater, and it's not like you can see any beers in the clip from Jimmy Keeves' bar basement. That episode will have aired by the point this has come out. So you saw this movie in a theater with your family, and it was a good time.
Yes, but it's more than that, but that's kind of my initial response.
It's not because of your deep-seated need to have a commentary on fascism or something?
No, but I love that would have been, as we're looking at this scene, would have been a likely possibility.
What made, okay, and this isn't a bait as much as now I'm gonna die, I need to understand this for my own purposes. What about it was, so you guys laughed a lot? Is that what I'm understanding about this experience?
I mean, it's a work of art in a way no other film has been, to my knowledge, that has existed or I have personally consumed in my lifetime. I mean, the mixture of where they were in the world, the research that went to this, the creations of the miniatures, the digital effects. Fuck these mosquitoes.
I'm sorry. I'm going to choose not, even though I'm very sex positive, I would not fuck those mosquitoes.
I am so glad to have this intel about you. So now I don't need to tease you with any mosquitoes and make you do things outside your marriage.
Yeah, are you a big Wes Anderson fan? When you brought in your books, it harkened back to my freshman year film professor who had later advised the student org I started in college for making movies, who was a big Wes Anderson person.
Yes.
Are you a big Wes Anderson person?
My director of the musical just asked me this. Yes, but if you hold me next to an actual cinephile and film enthusiast, they would look at me and go, that's cute. I just don't, and this is a lifelong thing, and maybe it's an ADHD or a disassociation thing from childhood trauma, but I just don't hold on to things that heavily, I'm a huge Wes Anderson fan relative to what I am a fan of in my life. I don't attach to things easily. I don't obsess over things easily. Quite the opposite. One might argue a little bit of commitment phobia. So for me to like Wes Anderson as much as I do, speaks volumes.
Do you collect anything?
Trauma.
Jeez. So, do you have any physical media in your life? CDs, DVDs, books? Physical books? You've shown us some physical books that you've
Yeah. I like my little book collection.
So when you move, how many boxes of books have you had to move in your last move? You don't have to tell me how recently it was.
Not that many, but maybe. Well, I usually do it by what I can handle and weight because
Sure.
of my adorable, thin, scrawny little wrists. And so it's usually 5 bins of books, but not filled up all the way.
Okay, that's a considerable book collection. Not to be an observant of sexist things, but I've noticed my wife carries more physical books than I do, and I, on the other hand,
why is that a sex thing or a gender thing?
If anything, that's sex positive,
Yeah.
gender positive, because women, we read more and...
Yeah, I believe that's true. I do believe that women read more than men.
Don't fact check me on that. I honestly, some of the biggest bookworms I know are men.
But do you sit down and read a physical copy of a book? Do you ever digitally read books?
No.
Okay, never digitally, but you do you read physical copies of books.
Yes.
Do you listen to audiobooks?
No.
Do you consider listening to an audiobook to be reading?
No.
Yeah.
Do you think
see?
you're dumber
Everybody
if
thinks
you
that.
do it?
You're not dumber than if you didn't listen to it at all, but I have noticed a pattern of people who take pride in listening to audiobooks and how they conflate that with their intellect.
Well,
Go further, please.
There just seems to be this bizarre amount of pride of people I've met who are like, oh, I do a ton of reading. Well, I do audiobooks, but I'm like constantly listening to them. And then you ask what they're listening to, and it's like 50 Shades of Grey and some book about murder. I don't know. I've never been into the whole, what's it called? What's the joke about women only listen to?
Murder podcasts?
Yeah. That.
And yes, and then like Lifetime movies, a woman's always threatened and that sort of thing. Honestly, I was going through a bit of a panic there because like the first thing I did when you commented on the Man Caves aesthetic was to bring up that I was listening to the audiobook of the Lorne Michaels biography, which is like 26 hours long.
Jeez.
I'm 73% of the, I've been working on it for over a month, or excuse me, the Green app,
Yeah. No
for
free ads.
listening to things, lets you have 15, if you have like one of the subscriptions, lets you have 15 hours a month. So I try to get in a half hour of listening a day, because then it averages out, but I don't. And I'm listening to Robert Rodriguez's book and Lorne Michaels' book, which tells you exactly what my interests are.
No, I listen, I have no shade if someone, sometimes it's a practicality thing, right? Like someone might argue, I have no time to read a book, so I have to listen to it in the car on the go. But I do believe there have been studies published about a higher correlation of people who actually read physical books and intellect compared to those who don't actually read.
I'm sure that's true.
Yeah, it's a completely different sense and form of self-discipline. There is an act of self-discipline of carving out and prioritizing reading in your day, prioritizing that above visual mediums and doom scrolling, and it's almost like a dying hobby, it seems like.
This is a debate show. What did you think BATE stood for in the title? So I'm going to counter you with, you remember like 20% of what you listen to and 10% of what you read, so you're likely to remember double the information from listening to a book than by reading it.
If that has a notable source to back it up, it's not a matter of me believing, it's just a matter of me going, okay, that has been proven factually true or not. Everyone learns differently, right? I'm a visual person, so I love the act of reading because I am visually seeing the words and there is not as much stimulation in my brain as listening. Also, my issue with podcasts, I've never even given an audiobook a try because I can barely get through a podcast because...
You don't listen to podcasts. You're on one right now, but you typically don't listen to them?
Typically not, because anytime I attempt to, my mind just wanders. I do not have the patience. It is viscerally painful for me. The thought of having to be on a phone call with someone or listening to a podcast and not being able to multitask is like viscerally uncomfortable for me. So I will only attempt to do it when I am driving, and every freaking time my mind wanders and I'm just like rewind, having to re-listen. It's like pointless. And that requires your brain to be on and listening and paying attention. And when I'm in the car, that's usually my like, everyone can fuck the fuck off time, because I am so packed to the brim every day and owe too many people messages and follow-ups and commitments and this and that and overstimulated that the last thing I want to do is have to have my brain on in the car and distracting from driving. I either will be in silence or I will listen to music. And music actually is the one activity they say that activates more of your brain than any other activity we can possibly do. But it's more of a feeling attached to it. Like, okay, I want to be uplifted, I'll listen to uplifting music. I want to feel calmed, I'm going to listen to calming music. So that's my whole spiel.
My counter to, or the response to your challenge of my counter is that I heard that in physics class 20 years ago in high school. So I don't really have a study to reference specifically. The reason I think this is relevant to Wes Anderson is because I've always found him to be very twee. And in that, I mean that he's noticeably taking time to do, and I don't mean this to sound as condescending as it does, dainty little details in his things, or jaunty little things that just add to the character of the movie and don't. They tell a story, but it's not like, okay, this tells you who the killer is. It's just part of the...
It's like eye candy, right? Isn't that what they call it sometimes?
I've learned that it pleases other people,
yeah.
and it doesn't please me in the... I'm not experiencing joy in the same way as they do.
Wait, so you don't like Wes Anderson films then?
No, I love this movie. I like this movie when I saw it. I have my... I'm very proud of my crossed keys that I got from the pre-screening of this movie.
Nice. Wait, where?
They're in the pictures that people will have clicked on in the... You can pass it to her if you want. I guess the question to you, the point of debate potentially, Lisa, is does it bother you that he's somewhat decadent in his visual representations and the way he doles out his stories?
God, no. I think that's why I love him.
Okay. Did you see the Phoenician Scheme?
No.
Okay. Kirk didn't like it. I did.
I feel like it's the lightest of Wes Anderson films. He doesn't go all the way with it, I feel like. It was very light.
Completely disagree. I thought it was very violent, which is what I like.
It was violent, sure, but it wasn't as in-depth or had a lot of characters like Grand Budapest Hotel or even The French Dispatch.
Well, I liked it more than The French Dispatch, as we've discussed. Did you see The French Dispatch or the camp one?
Yes.
Did you like The French Dispatch?
Yes. Okay, I need to preface this with, like, I joke, but I'm not joking. I have, like, movie amnesia. I can watch a movie a million times and, like...
I faceblind this.
It will not stick. So even though I've seen almost every one of his films, I barely can recount anything about them. But that's me with every movie. I remember books better than I remember movies.
Whoa, running counter to my physics example from earlier.
No, but it's just, I don't know what the deal with that is, but...
What types of books are you reading?
Most of my 20s, it was like self-help, how to be a boss person, take control of your life type thing. A lot of that came from working in startups and all that growth hacker networking. I loved everything by Ryan Holiday. I actually got to see him speak live.
Was it helpful?
Yeah, I got to talk to him at a mixer after the event, and I asked him, how do you have time to do all these millions of things that you do? Being the youngest, was it C-suiter at like a Fortune 500 company or something at 27 of American Apparel, and how are you a keynote speaker and an author? You've written a million books and a this and a that and a consultant and everything. And he goes, I don't watch the news. And I go, like, at all? Like, he goes, no. And I go, well, don't you feel like almost like a civil responsibility to be aware of what's going on in our world? Granted, this was like pre kind of all the bullshit that is politics these days, to put it lightly.
So this is more than 10 years ago?
This was probably 10 years ago, yeah.
Okay. Moving out of the Obama era into the current one.
Yes, and he goes, no. I mean, I'll hear from someone if I really need to know something, but no. He goes, it's designed to fear-mongle. It's designed to keep our eyeballs locked in for advertisers' purposes. Rarely is it journalism anymore. It's all... and he went on, and that just really stuck with me. Because what happens when you're on your phone, you get a push notification, and it, like, derails your whole mindset. Speaking of science, they say it takes 22 minutes to get back into flow state. So
yes,
I might be in flow state editing a video, and I'm really in it, right? And then I forgot to put the phone on Do Not Disturb, and you see that push notification from the news, and it's something fear-mongering, about the apocalypse being just around the corner. It's designed to keep our eyes locked in on this fucking screen. Pardon my French, but
No, I happen to like the French.
Beautiful.
More than the French Dispatch, in fact.
I was just gonna make a tie back too.
Do you like Ari Shaffir, the comedian? He makes that same argument.
Does he?
Do you like
About the news?
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't follow the news, and he's like, I don't need to know. I hear about it from people. I'm in clubs every night. People tell me what's going on, and that's enough for me. And I consume 2 to 3 hours of news a day. I pay for news.
Yeah, that sounds exhausting.
You've been with me in the car when I'm consuming it.
Because it's like outdated within hours or by the next day. It's
that I would argue that by Shonda Rhimes, you know who that is?
Yes.
She would argue that you're supposed to stay on top of it so that you can see trends. Like, I believe little of what I am hearing from, let's say, elected officials. It's helpful to hear what they have to say. I've heard the argument that debates don't actually change people's minds, so then why are they helpful? And the reason is that it gets somebody on the record with a position so you know what they don't do when they don't do it. Because you heard what they said when they were doing it, and some things are less surprising when they happen because, like, well, if you were following this, you knew that that's how this was going to work out.
Right. Well, and I was more playing devil's advocate there because I find myself wanting to keep up with the news. I go through cycles, though, where, like, I'm really good about, I don't know, staying up on research, and then it becomes exhausting. Well, because everything, I saw this video that kind of, like, really had give me an aha moment, which was anytime you, God, sorry, these mosquitoes.
We have bug spray. We will make in between the spoiler, non-spoiler, spoiler. We'll address this.
But someone was like, anything you watch that is on a visual medium has been paid for by somebody. So when you hear a message, think about who paid for this message.
Right.
100%.
And so no matter how unbiased something might sound or seem, you always should be thinking, whose in best interest would it be for me to have this point of view and be hearing it from this angle?
I've heard Lockheed Martin ads on an NPR podcast.
Say less. No, it's, and having worked in advertising for 10 years, it's like, yeah, that, I should have known that. I did know that, but just to have her say it the way she did, it was the Chelsea Explains Everything. Do you follow
The Chelsea Handler?
No, it's this gal who, she's just been like growing like crazy with her content. Chelsea Explains All? I think it's Chelsea, but she just has a really neat way of explaining things with kind of like authority and empathy. I don't know. And that was one of them. And she worked, I think, in journalism and PR for a very long time.
As it relates to Grand Budapest Hotel, one would argue that you should be following the news because let's say you were in Germany in 1932 when this movie takes place and you're seeing the rise of literal fascism and you go, you know what, maybe we should move to London. I think we can. We're, and if you're able to, we have family in America. Maybe we will go there. And the folks that did, maybe avoided the hardships that, happened then in the 40s by listening and following to current events in the 30s.
To yes and that, now that I am trying to focus more on content, it behooves me to be in the know on what's trending. I mean, the glaringly obvious example right now is the astronomer CEO affair at the Coldplay concert. Some of the first pieces of content I made as a freelancer where I was like, I have some time, was Katy Perry in space, and that was something that was more of like a creative exercise of like, how quickly can I get something up there? I was not proud of it. I didn't think it was very funny or punchy, and it got, I think, a combined, 700K views or something. And then...
Congrats.
Thanks. And then shortly after was, the Pope passing away. I remember it was like 3:30 in the morning, and I got that push notification and instantly wrote down a ton of ideas.
As a former Catholic, did it hit you differently?
It made me more sad than usual because I know he was a Pope that gave a lot of non-believers,
Comfort and hope.
Comfort and hope, and perhaps even curiosity in the faith. And I think that speaks volumes for all people really want is to feel loved and accepted. And I think it's a great shame when authority figures and people who claim to be Christians only spew hatred that drives people farther away from the possibility of the great love and warmth and comfort of Jesus Christ.
Our Lord and Savior. Did you see two popes with Anthony Hopkins playing Benedict? And did you see this? I think I brought it up before. The two and Jonathan, I think Banks is the name of the actor who plays the one who just passed from Brazil. So, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name. I remember Benedict was the pope before the last one, and then there was Brazilian pope.
Yep.
I can't remember his name. I apologize.
No, I don't either.
Anyway, what's funny is that after you're going off on like, watching TV instead of reading books and all that shit, there's a scene where Anthony Hopkins is like eating. They kind of make you look down on Benedict because he's like eating Cheetos and watching like reality TV, and the Brazilian Pope guy who you made some nice comments about, he's like more sophisticated and wants to read books and listen to music and be among the people. And this Homer Simpson moron just wants to watch TV. I mean, they're old men. They're set in their ways, and you don't become. Did you see the Conclave?
No.
Okay. That's fine.
But there was a lot of comments about it in the video I made, and so now I really want to watch it.
Conclave, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Watch
Conclave.
Two Popes first. I can't. It's a Netflix exclusive, but I really liked the representation of recent history that it did.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the referral. I guess to come full circle on that it was something that was like, oh, this. I don't know if it was just like if it sparked something within me from my background, or if I had this weird inkling that it was about to be like, because on one hand you could argue like, oh, is the world going to care that much? But I had a feeling it was going to be a big deal, and I was like, I want to make a video on this. And that was, what was that like? I was either full swing into the flu or something, or I was like super duper sick for like at least a week.
I don't remember what was personally going on in your life.
Yeah, okay. I thought all the podcasts would tell you what you needed to know. No, it was so painful having to like wait a week to make these ideas because I saw other things coming out, and I was like, no, I want to jump on mine, and then finally was able to do it when I still had some phlegm and whatnot in my throat. But all that to say, that was a perfect example, because like that video going viral is what allowed like influencer agencies to reach out, or however their systems work, where you kind of get pinged on their radar. And that's the one that just I found out today is sealed, right? And so it would behoove me not only for my own enjoyment of like putting that out in the world, but if I want to think more seriously and diligently about creating income through content creation, it's going to be staying on latest trends, to be playing into the human psyche, the zeitgeist, the SEO of what's trending. So just from a practicality standpoint, I should be more in the know. But at the same time, I would argue the things that are going to resonate and work in your favor as a comedian and content creator are going to be the things that the mass majority, the mainstream knows anyways, and I'm going to hear it. So I don't have to worry too much about like
Being on point.
Like if it's going to blow up, it's going to blow up. I'm going to hear about it. If that makes sense.
I think so. I see a point of potential debate, and I'm kind of avoiding using the movie since it's you've mentioned film amnesia to some degree. This past week, it was announced that CBS would be canceling its late night show,
Yes.
and the argument has arisen that it is due to fascism that is happening. Like, did Larry Ellison, who is trying to get his merger deal through the Federal Trade Commission, talk to Donald Trump at one of their USC events and go, hey, we'll do the $10 million apology payment to your life. Excuse me, 16. Yeah. We'll do the exact same payment that Disney ABC did, and we won't have to apologize because we didn't have George Stephanopoulos say something that's factually untrue. We just, we tipped the scales a little bit. I don't think they did anything unethical, but that's not for me to say. But was it, maybe whispering like, hey, this isn't in paper, but we're going to get rid of late night anyways. You don't like Colbert, so doesn't this sweeten the deal for you that you're already going to do, Mr. President? Or is it possible that because of people like you, Lisa, it is not relevant to have a very expensive show that pays a host $20 million a year when there are freelancers like you jumping on the joke, and even waiting a week can make a viral version of the joke that network-backed commercials aren't going to, hit. Basically, is it fascism or is it the market changing?
Well, I thought it was a lot more personal, wasn't it? That's why he went after, who's the parent company of the late night show?
It'd be the Paramount who is selling to Skydance.
Yeah,
for
and
possibly
Trump
about $3
had
billion.
some issues with them, right? That's why he's targeting them, essentially, in that $16 million.
Well, that's due to a 60-minute interview where they edited a pause out like we do for this podcast, just to fourth wall break. Like when you've had pauses tonight, he's going to edit those out so that it sounds like you just said the
nice.
Because why would people want to listen to that space?
Exactly.
Do either of you have a take on is it fascism or is it the market changing? I was hoping he would take it's fascism. I'm a Democrat. How dare they?
I would argue it's a lot more personal from Trump than anything else, because he had an issue with Paramount, and that's why they paid him $16 million.
He had an issue with
Yeah.
CBS's program 60 Minutes because when the vice president answered a question, I believe, about the current conflict in the Middle East, she paused for 10 seconds and they cut out that 10-second pause, and they found that to be, the exact same thing happened on Fox when he was asked about Jeffrey Epstein, and he paused, and they put out different versions. Like, they did the exact same thing on Fox when he was asked about Jeffrey Epstein that they did to Vice President Harris when she was asked about the war in the Middle East. Does you remember any of this?
It's just like, I haven't read up enough on it's one of those things where I'm like, I can't even ascertain the question because I just haven't read up on enough of the details. From what I've briefly seen in the headlines, there's speculation of my interpretation of the speculation was that it had to do with there was something with the merger, but let the show go that talks so poorly of the presidential administration right now, because it's basically a leftist talking puppet,
I would argue it's liberal, not leftist, but that's a completely different conversation.
Yes, which I would love to hear because your brain fascinates me, and I mean that in the best way. But what I would want to know, and because where my mind is going, is I watched the show Hacks, and the whole narrative revolves around, was it Jean Smart's character? God, what's her name? Why am I blanking on her? Deborah Vance.
Yes.
About how the option wasn't Deborah and somebody else. It was Deborah or no late night at all.
Yep.
And that just stuck out to me, like, deafeningly of, if that's not a sign of the times that we're in right now because of boomers aging out and our generation not really... Yeah, we don't have cable, we don't sit down, and yes, you can stream it, but we're all, looking at the millions of influencers and creators that are, I think it's a mirror of actual reality. And so when I saw what happened to Colbert, it made me think of that, of were they looking at the numbers? And it's a diminishing ROI. Because again, coming from an advertising background, that's my question is, well, what was the ROI of the show? What was the forecast of the show?
8 years.
Yeah, technically they were losing money. Right?
In the past 7 to 8 years of late night television, revenues have gone down by 50%. Do you think the cost to produce the show has gone down by 50%? Do you think the host has taken a pay cut? Do you think that just generally renting a theater in the middle of Manhattan and then paying all the staff to produce these things that are going to be watched on YouTube next to content you're producing, which is not an insult to you, actually I think it elevates you. They're doing something in a much more complicated and expensive way that is not having the social impact because of the atomization of the media landscape.
Well said, yeah.
I also watched this season of Hacks,
Yes.
and that resonated with me. So, I'm not sure that it's fascism, whereas I'm sure that it's fascism in Grand Budapest Hotel.
I won't doubt for a second that the media or some of the media will paint it out to be fascism. They will highlight, they'll make a highlight reel of all the terrible things Colbert has ever said about Trump, and then they're gonna juxtapose it next to stuff Trump has. It's all about how they're gonna spin it. It'll be in many media outlets' best interest to spin it as fascism, but I have to read up on more about why it actually is the case.
I'll try to make the counter-argument against myself unless you want to.
Counter-argument that it's not fascism?
That it is fascism because it is big business merging with big government and operating in the will of and aligning those two interests against the interest of people.
I agree with that, yeah.
And my argument is I think it's a sign of the times. The presidential candidates in 2016 went on the late night shows, and in 2024 they went on podcasts.
But can you make that argument against other shows? Why won't you take down other shows? Why just Colbert's?
Because they're doing a merger and they're trying to they're trying to skinny up the company for when the new management comes in.
So this is just an opportunity
anyways.
Because there's a merger. This is a good opportunity to make these cuts.
Yes. This was going to happen anyways. It's a problem. There's a bigger structural problem, I would argue, that there is fascistic parts of our country that I don't think are unique to one administration. Why are there four
but I've never heard an
producers in the
administration go after a late night show this hard before.
Okay, so you have freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. Who did that affect more? And who did that? The other side did that to the side that now has the power. and look what's happening.
Oh, okay. You're saying because they build more, they're more right-leaning media.
Because
now.
When what I'll call the Democratic establishment was in charge, they went to the tech companies and said, you have freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. And even though we're a right-of-center country, which I think that's more true for America than, say, your Western European friends that people will hear more about in your interview segment coming up. Just the argument is this started earlier than the current administration.
Yeah, it probably did, but it's gotten a lot worse.
Because we know that a legitimate piece of information to the 2020 election was specifically downgraded on social media. So, would that have influenced the election? I highly doubt it, but it's still... The two are relevant. So the fascism, I don't think, is unique to this administration attacking Colbert. I think it's a bigger problem. I know there are several people who are community members, people within the industry that would disagree with me, and I would invite their criticisms and counterbaits. I think it would be fun to move into spoilers.
Yeah,
Quickly, Wes Anderson, violence. He is violent. He's not violent. How do you feel?
I don't think he's violent.
Okay, good.
I was just reading up on that in one of the interviews in this lovely hardcover.
The hardcover physical media you have.
Yes.
Of the book. Yes.
And there's a part in the interview where the interviewer challenges Wes Anderson on that very question. And Wes talks about how it wasn't until they first screened the Grand Budapest Hotel that I think it was like a friend's daughter or something was like covering her eyes. And he just meant it as like, to them they are like part of the jokes. They're almost part of the...
When the fingers get cut off to spoil something mild?
Even the way the fingers get cut off is almost dainty. Like to use the word you used earlier, it's like...
It's twee.
It's more of a gimmick and like part of a storytelling. Like Wes Anderson's films have a way of like feeling like you're watching them as if you're listening to a story around a campfire. In the same way, I wouldn't hear, and then his fingers were severed. I wouldn't be like, oh no, the horror. It's more about like, it just happens to be part of the details and it's done in a dainty Wes Anderson way. I will liken it to the same way when people ask me about like swearing or like cross topics in stand-up comedy.
Cross topics?
Crass topics in stand-up comedy of how like I only do that if it's the right seasoning. If there's a point in a stand-up bit where me saying the F word would feel more weird to not say it than to say it, that's when you know you should use it. In the same way, I would argue there are scenes in here that the quote-unquote gory part of it like is that finishing seasoning done just right, that if you didn't have it, it wouldn't quite satiate that scene in the same way.
Yeah.
Well, and they're also talking about the rise of fascism, which was done very violently. I would compare this movie to Death of Stalin. Have you seen Death of Stalin?
No.
Have you?
No.
Armando Iannucci? Damn it. One of these days, people are going to go hard with me on that. So the reason I feel it's violent is that you're seeing the violence. Like, if it doesn't matter what Wes Anderson intended, it matters how it was received by the audience. That's Pixar's philosophy. And therefore, it's like, we just argued about a movie called Eddington that the director intended to be a Western, but most people are not receiving it as a Western. And I hadn't even considered it being a Western until I read other people saying that, and then we had a whole debate about whether it was, and we determined it is definitionally. Sorry for spoilers for that. I don't know if that'll come out
real quick because my ADD can't stop thinking about it. Can we replay it? Because I just love the ambiance.
Oh yeah, I'm waiting for. We're gonna wrap this non-spoiler section.
Hop right into spoilers.
So my counter to your point was just that I completely agree. Like, I've gone through this debate for years with my adopted parents of like, well, you like this R-rated movie, but you didn't like this R-rated movie, and they said just as many fucks in this one as they did in that one, and the violence. Like, they liked Breaking Bad, they like some Coen Brothers movies, but then the violence in other movies is like, no, that's not acceptable, and to me they're the same. Going back to this interview, an example they gave is in Fantastic Mr. Fox. Very violent movie. Right. And his tail gets severed and then is worn like a necktie. Yes. But the way it's done artfully, you almost watch it in like a children's book style. You don't receive it in the same way as Inglourious Bastards or insert any other insanely violent movie that, I don't know, that was the first one that came to mind, of like blood and gore. You watched The Simpsons growing up, right? Yeah. And you saw all the Treehouses of Horror where their skin turned inside out, the children were eaten, and all the other violent things that happened. That rings a bell, yeah. So I understand, like, just because of the context of claymation or stop motion animation versus, or his style of movie making, it's not violent, but it's still violence. Like, we have to acknowledge, like, a person's losing his fingers. They're being killed. He's losing an appendage, the tail, for example.
Well, it's more like, I think about what is the repercussions of nature. Like,
Nature's metal.
That actually is the Instagram page that came to mind of, like, take anything you would see on that page. Maybe I'm trying to think of something I saw recently. I think, lion, it was a bunch of tigers ripping apart a stork or some bird that had come into the enclosure. Maybe that's a bad example because it's actually not that gory.
But kids could see that at the zoo, and what would you do? Like,
it's like, it's not inherently violent. It's just a reflection of nature and the world we live in the same way when you're telling a story and there's a chase and his hand gets caught in a door, his like fingers happen to get severed, as opposed to a movie where it could have just been, there was a battle and you heard things and you saw the horror on someone's face. But no, they chose to show you 100 dead, bloody, gory bodies with their guts inside out. Like who is that actually serving? And how much of that is actually a mirror of real life that like someone would live? Like, I would love to know the director's choice, give any war
Saving
movie.
Private Ryan.
Sure, yeah.
It gave people an idea of what Normandy was actually like.
Yes, and I would argue that is like the right way to approach it. I think it de-romanticized like war, and it gave like greater tribute and empathy to what these very young men went through, as opposed to like, I would bet, bless this local film community scene, but sometimes I hear these directors talk about like the gore they want to show, and it's like, but what's the intent? Is it gore for the sake of gore? What are you trying to achieve with it? And I think with Wes, a lot of these scenes are like, if you didn't have some of the blood and guts, for lack of better words, it might feel too remedial of like, what is this? Is a glorified children's movie? Like, it gives it the balance, I feel like, of a more adult narrative. I don't know if I'm finding the right words or if that makes any sense, but
one of the things I think that my children like about that I liked about The Simpsons when I was a kid, and that I liked about it as an adult, is that it's not talking down to people, but it's also doing it in this, like, it looks like a kid's cartoon. It looks like something for children, and it looks quaint and dainty and all of that, but it's dealing with a very serious topic, and the topics are very serious, like Homer cheating on his wife in early seasons being considered, and as I've already mentioned, the Treehouse of Horrors, and it's interesting to me that like my kids do like watching Wes Anderson. We watched Isle of Dogs to get ready for this one.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah, that's actually one of the ones I still have to see. I know, yeah, but it made me think of the scene where. Wait, can I say it? Where he throws the cat?
Well, we'll go into spoilers.
Okay, yeah.
Do you want to save it? We'll start at the top.
We'll save it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Catch you in our spoiler segment. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. For more JK Productions, find us on Instagram at JK Productions Team and on Facebook, JK Productions MN.